Hi, I have an update for anybody who's interested and just for the record, posterity and all. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cold here. I had a surprise jury selection and hearing sprung on me recently. I thought I had the winter off as far as my criminal cases go, which I have 3 pending at this point, and I thought I had got a continuance and gotten them all postponed for until March 21st, but my attorney, turns out, hadn't submitted some motions, and so that never happened. And so the court didn't know any of that, and nobody told me about this jury selection until last minute. I found out about it, luckily, but accidentally, and was able to attend. And there was a hearing that was scheduled also right after I found out about the jury selection. I found out about this hearing that was scheduled, unspecified hearing by Zoom, but it turned out to be just nothing. The judge just kept continuing it. Can't deal with this now. Can't deal with this now. Put it off, and then it got continued to the next day, which was the jury selection. And so I show up to that, wait for like an hour and whatever. My attorney's there, but we don't talk or anything. Uh, Everybody's just waiting, and then we have a hearing about which of the trials, which of my cases might be ready for going ahead to trial. And there are 2 that are sort of supposed to be disorderly conduct and criminal mischief. There's also a felony case, which I was arrested for much later and is much further out from trial. And so I assume we're talking about just the 2 that are like on the docket and possibly headed for trial. And there was a witness that had been unavailable, a cop who had been out for that's hard to say, shoulder surgery for 12 weeks, who's now back, though, and available. I'd like her as a witness in both of those cases that might go to trial. So that was okay. But there's this outstanding court order. The DA has not been following the rules of evidence, has not been providing all the evidence I have requested and am entitled to. And it got to the point where there was a hearing and there was a court order. This was way back in July. He was ordered by the court to provide this evidence, and just hasn't and keeps getting put off. And so I brought that up, and the judge said, "Well, okay, that's for this one case. What about the other case?" And I point out, well, that it's actually for both, even though I filed it only in one. So then the judge says, "Oh, okay. So then I guess what we'll do is we'll go ahead and have your felony trial." And it felt like a threat, like he was like saying, "Oh yeah, you want to do that? Well, we'll do that. I'll do this. I can do this." And then he says, and then he adjourns court. Well, I can't deal with this now again, and I got to go deal with jury selection, another thing. And so he adjourns court and leaves. And after he's gone, I say, is he angry at me? I say to my lawyer, is he angry at me? Was that like a threat or something? And my attorney says, well, he didn't really answer the question, but he says, well, he can't really do that because there are only these 2 cases on the docket officially, so he can't, he can't really do that. So that was a relief. It was just a threat, but it's just annoying that a judge would do that. And then then we come back eventually after lunch, and I think it was during lunch when I filmed a brief protest, or briefly filmed the protest that was going on in downtown there. anyway, and which I uploaded, and anti-ICE protest, and came back after lunch, and the judge, like I think I mentioned, really wanted to go ahead with one of the cases, some trial or other. There was an opening in the docket, so he had dropped the threat of going ahead with the felony case, but then he just like overruled his own order. Basically, the order ordering the DA to share evidence. The judge opens opens the rules of criminal procedure book, digs it out, opens it up, starts reading just the automatic discovery part. There's automatic discovery and supplemental discovery. He just reads the automatic discovery, which is what the DA is automatically supposed to provide. But there's also supplemental discovery, which is all kinds of other stuff you can request and are entitled to. And he asks the DA only about the automatic discovery. The DA says, well, we've provided everything that we're going to provide, basically. And so the judge says, okay, well, you gotten everything you're entitled to, Mr. Floyd. And so we're going to go ahead. And I say, okay, well, if we have to go ahead, it seems like this is set in stone. If we have to go ahead, Your Honor, can we please go ahead with my disorderly conduct case? That's the one I'm most ready to proceed to trial with. And he agreed to that. So at least there's that. And then we have jury selection on that case that same day, just later that same day, in the same courthouse in a different courtroom downstairs. And it was a mess. I ended up, my attorney had not the most updated, he had an older, outdated witness list. So it was the wrong witness list that got used. So that's going to kind of mess things up a little bit, but that probably won't matter anyways, as I will relay soon. And then it was just a mess. The judge kept reading the wrong names and reading names of jurors, like numbers he'd already dismissed it was just a mess. The whole thing was, and I only managed to get in one question, one of my own questions for the jurors, which was about, is hearing a lot of swear words going to, affect your offensive words being used, going to affect your ability to be impartial, that kind of thing, I think is how the judge phrased it. But basically, I also wanted to ask about people not being offended by protesters per se, because a lot of people are, that might affect them, but I forgot in the craziness of the thing. But it got through it, basically. And I thought it was fine. And then the next day, I get a text from my attorney about the court got notice, apparently, that I was recording some of them. They apparently, what had happened is at the end of the day, on the jury selection day, which was the previous day at that point, some of the jurors apparently had gone to the marshal at the court and said that they thought or claimed, I guess, something, I was recording them, basically, and they were uncomfortable with it. And at the courthouse, from what I understand. And, that certainly I didn't do anything like that. They wanted me, the judge summoned me to court, but it was like super, it was short notice. I had no way to get there. And so for like that afternoon, I didn't know I was supposed to go to court, couldn't, anyway, ended up not going to court. And then my attorney eventually got word to me, texted me that, right now there's not going to be any consequences. They're not, or I forget what he said, but I got the idea it was just up in the air for now. No, nothing immediate was going to happen. They just, I think what he said is they just wanted me to inform you of it. And so that was just crazy. I don't know what that's about still. But it certainly was a stressful afternoon. And then the next day I had a deposition in one of my civil cases where I'm suing these cops. And that was interesting. I was not ready for it. I was just a mess because of the, everything leading up to it. Plus, I'm just feeling kind of like I think everybody is, feeling a little unsettled lately generally with what's going on nationally and everything. Anyway, but I got through that also. And then the next day I think it was the next day, or a day after that. Then in the mail, I get the court order about recording jurors, and it basically just says the same thing that some jurors claimed that I was recording them, complained about it to the marshal, and so if on the day of trial, what's going to happen is they're going to ask the jurors if they're still can be impartial, and if they can't be impartial, then the judge, the way the judge worded it is something like, then I will have to reimburse for the cost of impaneling the jury, and I will be charged with contempt of court. And he's seen the way it was worded, it sounded like he was assuming I was guilty, and he was leaving it up to these jurors, to decide this other sort of extra case that was thrown in there, whether, just by saying whether they could still be impartial or not. But I ran it past ChatGPT because my lawyer, I've tried. Well, anyway, I'll get to that in a second, I guess. Anyway, so I ran it past ChatGPT and which suggested that was just the way it was worded. That the judge isn't assuming I'm guilty. It's just the way that they word orders like that. There would have to be an actual hearing to determine whether he could, whether I would actually be charged with contempt or or have to reimburse for the cost of impaneling the jury. So it's not like that's not set in stone, I guess. And then and then in regards to my lawyer, I've tried. I sent him the updated, corrected, which he already had, but another just in case. Here is the updated witness list. Can you subpoena these people? And also, even though the judge kind of overruled his own order asking for evidence, we can still subpoena some of this, or we could subpoena all of it, I suppose. But I just asked him to subpoena one thing, or one, incidents related to one incident, documents related to one incident. But I never heard back, and then I decided to respond to the court order about recording jurors, just acknowledge it officially, and I guess signal cooperation and kind of court friendly sort of thing to do. And so I wrote up not a motion, but just a notice, ducis ecum, I forget what it's called, the right kind of, it's a certain sort of notice, just, I like telling the court, I didn't do this, but I'm definitely willing to, go along with all the, court, whatever, to, comply with court orders, not to record, all that kind of stuff. And so sent that to my attorney as well. No, he's gone, radio silent. I don't know what's going on, but he just, he was really responsive at first and gotten it. And then sometime back, a couple months ago, he just, it's like somebody's flipped a switch. And now he just never gets back to me, nothing for months now. It was like a couple of months of really good behavior, and then boom. I don't know. It's just weird. And I don't know. Anyway, so I'm headed to trial on the 25th of this month. So that's in, as I record, 10 days. No word on witnesses or evidence, but luckily for me, it's a super weak case. I think I could walk in there, with the DA's evidence and witnesses, and it wouldn't be hard to raise reasonable doubt in the juries. And my own video of the incident itself, which is of course pure gold. As far as all that goes, yeah. So I guess I'm not super worried about it. I'm sure my attorney will show up at trial, or at least I assume he will. Anyway, thank you for listening, bearing witness, and all that. Wish me luck, and I hope you all are out there or holding up. In crazy times. May we live in interesting times, as the old Chinese curse goes, right? And these are certainly interesting times. So stay safe, but keep fighting, and peace.